I understand kind of what subject to is, but I don't know how to structure the deal to get them to understand. And then two, how to structure it in a way that I could wholesale it. Like I have the basic knowledge and like I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to say, well, subject to, and then her say, oh, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, I don't know.
A really simple way to explain subject to is to use the verbiage, take over the payments.
Okay.
So if I say to an agent or a seller, for sure, a seller, hey, how about we do subject to? They're going to be like, subject what? Like, what are you talking about? Even agents, most agents are going to have no clue what that is. So then an easy way to say it would be, you know what? If I were to buy this, if I were to make a cash offer, and if I were to buy this property cash, I would need to be below what they owe on their mortgage, which means it's not going to work, right? Especially with closing fees, commissions, and so on. But there is a way that I could pay a lot more. There is a way that I could pay you the number that your seller needs to get out of this property. There's a way I could pay that price. If the seller would be open to me taking over their payments, there's a way that this could work. Is that something that I could talk to you about? Is that something that we could explore together? And by the way, agents, I always make sure that you get paid your commission. So whatever we structure here, you're going to get paid your commission. I don't even think about talking about this with agents if I'm not going to make sure the agent gets paid their commission, which means with agents, you're not going to do a zero down deal ever. You can't.
Okay.
Because at closing, the agent's got to get paid. And if they don't get paid, the whole thing is not going to work because there's no way they're going to present this to the seller if they don't get paid, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's a good icebreaker. Take over the payments. And then the agent's going to say, well, what does that mean? Or how does that work? And now you open the door and you basically are going to try to explain to them. And this is where you need to really understand enough yourself. You need to role play. You need to explain. What I would do is I would role play with someone who has no idea what real estate is and see if you can explain what subject to is and they understand it. Now, I like to use the Pace Morby F-150 story. If you guys know Pace Morby, he tells a story about how he couldn't sell an F-150 and then he offered to sell it where he'll take payments for it. And then he sold it for a higher price. And all he did was he took over payments or he accepted payments in exchange for the F-150. So in real estate, you would get the property, you would get the deed to the property, and in exchange, you would be taking over the seller's payments in order to get the property. And the seller can walk away and not have to worry about the property anymore. That's broad terms, right? That's kind of a really simple explanation. Now, when it gets to the technical side, which I think is where you're getting hung up, don't get hung up on the technicality. If an agent says, you know what, I think the seller might be open to that, especially if whatever price it is, we're going to go to closing and you're going to pay the closing fees. You're going to get the commissions paid. And if there's equity, maybe you get some cash in the seller's pocket. I always try to figure out if there's a way to get $5,000 or something to the seller. If they can walk out of there with a little bit of money, they're going to be way more open to it, especially if they can't sell the property because they owe too much on the mortgage. Now, the numbers are what they are. Maybe you can't get the seller any money, but you at least got to figure out how to pay closing fees and the agent's commission, right, on top of taking over their loan. So then once we agree on terms, here's what I do. I say, listen, agent, I work with a transaction coordinator. They help me put together all of my deals. I'm going to get her on the phone right now, introduce you to her, and she's going to work with you and with title on how this all gets put together. The paperwork, the loan takeover, we're going to set up an escrow service, a servicing company that's going to handle the payments, all of it. And then I transition out of the deal. My transaction coordinator, which you can use and everybody can use, steps in and does all the rest of it. And I don't do any of that. And they charge me like $500 and they handle the whole thing. Paperwork, closing, all of it. You want to sign it? Great. We're going to do a contract. My contract is assignable. And now I sign my subject to deal to another investor. I don't do any of it. My transaction coordinator puts the paperwork together. Once you have a contract that's a contract to buy subject to, you just assign that like you would a cash offer. You just assign your contract. Your cash buyer is going to step into the terms of your subject to, They're going to agree to the same down payment, taking over the payments, balance, all of that. And then for a fee. So then you get your assignment fee, they step in, buy the subject to deal, and you're out.